Well, I'd like to welcome everybody listening here to the Rafe Granger podcast. If you're listening to my two podcasts in tandem, I just recorded this segment with Aaron LeBauer, my guest, who I'm going to introduce in about a minute in my D6 generation feed. And actually, this is a good moment to introduce you here on the Rafe Granger podcast. I have this alter ego. Some of you may not know that, where about 10, 15 years ago, I started this podcast with my friends Russ Wakeland and Craig Gallant, and it's called the D6 generation. And we've started to kind of put some stuff back on the D6 generation podcast feed, but we would review miniature games like Warhammer 40,000. We would talk about Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games, and we would talk about European style board games. You know, a lot of people listening on this podcast may know that, have heard of like Settlers of Catan, which is sort of a very, very beginner version of the European style board games we would play. Like Aaron, I have this game that was gifted to me where you're playing on a beautiful board, a winery. Like your goal is to put wines out to market, and there's all of this. It's super dense game. It's so dense. I can't wait to play it. But that's the whole game. Is you're pretending to make wine. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me introduce Aaron LeBauer here on the Rafe Granger podcast. Aaron, so great to have you for the second half of our recording.
Yeah, Rafe, man, it's awesome to be here, and it's awesome to hang out, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you bet. Tell the audience who you are, what you do, and how we met.
Yeah, I am first off, I'm a Sagittarius. I don't know if that means anything.
It does.
I was born in December, but I'm Sagittarius, and I'm Aaron. I'm 6'3". I got red hair, and I've done a whole lot of things in my life, but the number one thing that I do right now, besides hang out with my kids and family, is I help other physical therapists create more time, freedom, and income for their business and for their family and in their career.
And am I correct, or am I pigeonholing you in that, there's a lot of physical therapists that want to heal people, or a lot of people in the medical field actually, but specifically you work with physical therapists where they want to heal people and they want to do that outside of the standard insurance model and create what I, as a layperson, call a cash-based PT practice.
Yes.
And are you like, that's just the surface of it?
Well, it's sort of the surface. I mean, I think most physical therapists would do it in the insurance-based model if they felt like their time was valued and that they could treat patients the way that they knew best without having their treatments dictated by whether insurance is going to reimburse you or not.
Got it.
So people get frustrated or burnt out because they have to see more people an hour because the insurance their focus isn't on like what's best for the patient. It's like, how do we pay the least amount? And they make you jump through hoops, and people are just like, I didn't get into this profession to jump through hoops and to rush my patients. You know what? Instead of quitting and going and selling real estate or going back to law school, I'm going to start a practice or a business that doesn't rely on insurance reimbursement, and which doesn't mean people can't get their visits reimbursed. It's just, we have to do it a little bit differently. And that's what you call a cash practice or a out-of-network physical therapy practice.
Okay. And so to bring my introduction kind of full circle, Aaron and I got connected by a mutual friend, and we started chatting by email a couple of years ago. Then we finally linked up, and he invited me onto his podcast where I was recently a guest. And Aaron, tell people about that podcast and how they can listen. And
the podcast is called the Cash PT Lunch Hour. And it started by me just doing like live video interviews for an hour during my lunch about 7 years ago. And I would I do some episodes myself and interview other people. And now I don't record it during lunch, but it's about a 45-minute show where I interview successful physical therapists who are out of network, marketing and sales experts, or share some of the latest marketing and sales business growth strategies that I've learned over the years.
So Aaron was nice enough to invite me on there as like a coach to coach. And we found out we had some mutual things in common. We had entrepreneurialism in common. We had Baptiste Power Yoga in common. You've heard me talk about that a little bit on the show. And we had Dungeons and Dragons in common. And so that's the full circle, is that if you want to hear more about Rafe's gaming world, head on over to the D6 generation. Aaron and I just recorded a segment with his introduction to Dungeons and Dragons as an entrepreneur. I called the segment Entrepreneur and Dragons. I'm kind of proud of that title, actually.
Yeah, that was a good one.
If you want to hear that, that's over on the D6 generation feed. You'll find it in the title. But on the Rafe Granger podcast, I want to switch focuses a little bit to more entrepreneurialism. And we like to just interview entrepreneurs and hear their starts. And I know you just told the other podcast feed that, but how'd you get started in what you're doing?
Yeah, I started, well, this is a little bit goes further back for this
Cool.
podcast. I think it's more relevant. My dad and uncles and grandfather are all physicians. So I went to college thinking I'm going to go to medical school because, I mean, what else am I going to do? Like, or whether I wanted to do that or not, I was like, this is what's expected of me. First night of organic chemistry, I sat down and realized it's going to take me 4 hours to do a review homework of what I just got an A in the prior 2 semesters. And I was just like, this isn't going to be for me. I'm not going to spend 4 hours a day doing this. I got 3 other classes to take. I got a life I want to live. So I was no longer pre-med. I got out of school, and that's when, instead of getting a real job, that's when I went to Israel for a year and did like a volunteer, and a service learning project for a year. We talked a little bit about on your other podcast, because that's where I did a lot of D&D. But after that year, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna move out to California. I landed on a friend of a friend of a friend's couch on the porch, and I slept in the rain for 6 weeks. It was an El Nino winter, and luckily I just gotten a new sleeping bag, and made my way for the next few years, working like as a chef, a barback, a temp, and a bike messenger. And I finally realized, well, I can do what I want if I become a massage therapist. It wasn't like brand new. I had been exposed to massage in high school, and even in like a yoga class I took in college. And it was a thing I thought about, but my mom even was like, well, maybe you work with your hands and work with people, doing that. And I was like, nah. And then I realized after a while, like, well, I can do 4 massages a day, ride my bike for 5 hours a day, and make enough money to be happy as a 25-year-old, 26-year-old.
I love this.
So I did that for 6 years. And along the way, I met my wife, who at the time she was my girlfriend. She was like, you should be a physical therapist. And I was like, no.
Wait, how'd you meet?
We met, we're both massage therapists, but we actually met through Craigslist back before Craigslist was the way it is now. It was like pretty much only San Francisco and New York. And we met on there looking for like massage trade, and, connected, and we didn't actually trade massage for like 6 months. And, like I first met her and I was like, wow, this someone special. Like, I want to
How'd you know?
something different. Oh, it's just a feeling I got right away,
Yeah.
like just, I don't know. It was weird. Wasn't expecting it at all. And, so
was it reciprocated? Did she like have that
Yes.
same first
Yes.
feeling, or was she
was
like,
yeah, from
whatever?
the moment we met, she was like, I don't know why I'm getting in the car with him, but okay. And I picked her up at her house and took her to another part of town to have like, tea at like a Atlas Cafe.
Yep.
So,
wow. I can't believe we have so much in common. I forgot to
Yeah.
tell you in the other podcast, I too played clarinet in middle school.
oh, really? Wow.
So
Right
we have
on.
that in common too. And yeah,
Yep.
when I first laid eyes on my wife, Marisa, I saw her at daycare, and
Yeah.
she was at the fridge getting amoxicillin for her son, and I was at the fridge getting amoxicillin for my daughter. And the minute I saw her, I was just instantly intrigued. Isn't that something? Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yep.
That's really amazing. So yeah, so Andra was
She
like,
did
you
not
should-
feel the same way right away, Aaron. we have
So you had to go,
something different
you do
there.
some more chasing.
I had to do some convincing after.
Right.
a couple
That's
days.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was like, you should be a physical therapist. Well, living in San Francisco, I didn't want to move, and there were no schools there that really like I had enough prerequisites for, that I didn't have to go do like 2 more years of extra school. I was like, no. In California, people know they need to go see their massage therapist when they tweak their back.
Okay.
At the time, you couldn't get in to see a PT if you wanted to without getting a referral from a physician, and it'd take you weeks. And people were like, Aaron, I knew I just need to come see you when I tweak my back working out. I'm like, cool, sweet. Business was fine. We decided we wanted to like potentially one day own a house and have kids. And we were like, there's no way we're doing this in San Francisco. And this was still
Because it's so expensive.
It was expensive.
I don't
Yeah, 17 years ago, it was crazy expensive. Like,
know. Okay.
we couldn't find a place to rent for less than $1,000 a month. And we looked for 8 months, and we tried to do it with roommates and whatever. And, like we could have made a lot of concessions and moved further away from town, but we didn't want to do that. So instead of throwing a dart at the map, we were like, well, let's move to San Luis Obispo for a year near her family. That didn't work out. It was a nice vacation, but it wasn't for us. So we moved to North Carolina, where I grew up. And within 3 months of being here, I mean, really 6 months, we had bought a house and both re-enrolled in school. So then I became a physical therapist because I knew, like, with the patients I was seeing doing massage, like, I needed to learn more. I needed to learn more about, how to predict when they would feel better and how to really understand and diagnose and pinpoint where the real problem was. Because I wasn't trained to do that as a massage therapist, yet I'm getting people who are coming to see me who've been in pain for a long time. I'm the first person that's been able to help them or touch them where they hurt, even though they've been dozens of other places. So then in PT school, I'm trying to make this short, but this is
this is awesome. Don't make it short.
Yeah. So
like,
then
like, if we run up against time constraints, we'll just pause and we'll do part 2.
All right, cool. So then in PT school, I'm sitting here, like, I'm making $85 an hour as a massage therapist, running my own business. So I'm not making all 85, but our rent and expenses weren't that much. So I'm taking home probably $70 every visit. I'm in PT school and I never looked at jobs for PTs. I was just like, cool, I'll be Dr. LeBauer, like my dad and my uncles and my grandfather, and that'll help me. And I'll know some more about, like, when are people going to get better? Because that's the number one thing that they would ask. It's like, well, Aaron, do you know when I'm going to feel better? I didn't know. I didn't have the training. Massage is a wellness, service. And I was on my first clinical rotation one day and I saw 43 patients in about 9 hours. And I was like, and I was there for an extra 3 hours doing documentation. And that was the day I decided, I was like, I can't do this. I'm seeing 4 people an hour. I got my hands on them, kind of yelling across the room or like talking across the room to someone, trying to direct their corrective exercises. And I'm sitting here going, well, people have been coming to me as a massage therapist because this type of therapy hasn't worked because they're being ignored and there's no way they can actually get touched. Because if I actually spend 15 minutes touching someone, I am letting someone else be unsupervised. And I realized I had to do something different. And so when I graduated, I started my own physical therapy practice, out of network, cash-based. And everyone said, you're crazy. It's not going to work. No one's going to pay more than their copay for PT. And I'm sitting here going, I'm already making $85 an hour. Now I'm Dr. LeBauer. People are going to pay an extra $10 for it to come see me. Like, that'd be weird if they didn't, but no one really believed that I could do it. I mean, I had the support of my wife and my dad and, a couple clinical instructors, but they weren't doing it themselves. And they were like, well, we'll always have plan B, which would be getting a job at the hospital. 5 years later, I'm still doing it and going, all right, I've proved everything to everyone. All right, now what? And I realized I wanted more.
You proved everything to everyone because you actually developed cash-based physical therapy practice. Well, I call it as a layperson, cash-based physical therapy. But point being, you could see patients for as long as you needed, just like a massage therapist would, and actually give them the healing, the modalities. I might be using the word wrong. The treatments that they needed.
Right.
Even though the world thought you were crazy.
Yeah. Even though all the physical therapists I talked to said, it's crazy, it's not going to work, no one's going to pay. And I don't charge $95 anymore. We charge a lot more than that now. We don't even charge per hour. We have programs and people pay up to $2,000, $2,500 for, a program to get better, because we're not even, one of the things I've learned is people aren't buying physical therapy. They're paying for the understanding of their problem and the ability to solve their problem and reach a goal that no one else is even talking to them about. And so
you realized you disconnected, you disassociated the value of the service from hours.
Right. I started learning. So after 5 years where I'm saying, okay, it's $125 an hour and you'll get better in 5 to 8 visits. So I proved that I could do it for myself and build a job for myself. After 5 years, I wanted something more, and I had to hire someone else to do that, because the reason I got into coaching is because I had people ask, I was just helping people through like LinkedIn forums and, like online, like private forums that we used to have about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how'd you do it? Well, can I call you on the phone and ask you some questions? Sure. This one woman goes, well, how much do I owe you? And I was like, owe me what? She's like, well, how much do I owe you? Your time is valuable. And I was like, well, I don't know. She said, well, how much do you charge your patients? And I told her. She's like, I'll pay you that. And what's interesting is before that, I had this conversation with my wife, who's amazing, Andra. And I told her, I said, Andra, I was like, man, I just spent like an hour on the phone with these people, who are, a couple of them are classmates and someone else. And I was like, I told them all the things that I did, gave them all the secrets, sent them all the links. I was like, and they didn't even say thank you. And she goes, don't give when you expect something in return.
That's good
I was like,
advice.
wow, wise. I was like, so give without expectation, really. But she said, don't give something away when you expect something in return. And I'm expecting them to just acknowledge that I've done a lot of hard work. And so I've realized that I only give without expectation. If someone really wants my help, they're going to pay me, because that means I'll actually do something. Because the people I'm talking about who asked for this free advice, they didn't do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am 5 years in, I'm like, I need something else. It took hanging out with a friend of mine who's from Great Britain to see how he runs his businesses without their insurance, to see that I could do the same thing. Because all the other business owners in the United States who I met and knew had a very different trajectory, and it wasn't something that I saw was possible for me. And I saw that and I said, okay, I got to do something different. And I go to hire PT. And after a year of hiring another PT, I realized we weren't charging enough. So I couldn't pay him what he's worth. And I couldn't pay the admin what she was worth. And, business, you're supposed to have a profit.
Sure.
So I had to raise our rates, and we had to raise them more than a couple dollars. So that's where we switched from charging per time to creating programs. So I was able to more than double our rates by creating programs based on what people want. In a physical therapy world, we call it outcomes. We can create a sales process based on what people want. And I learned a big part of this from one of the guys that did sales for Tony Robbins, right? So I had to learn how to do this from outside the industry. But I was taking my coaching knowledge and applying it to the clinic for sales. And no one in physical therapy is doing that.
And do you still have your clinic?
Yeah, I still do.
Yeah.
And it's, with COVID, it's been a tough year, but I looked at our numbers, and our fourth quarter in 2020 is better than our fourth quarter in 2019, surprisingly. So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Man, I got so memorized by the story, I don't have a follow-up question. Tell me more.
Well, I think the one key, and you pulled this out, is we're not trading time for money. And so when people ask, well, how much do you charge? It's one of those things where how do we shift our mindset around what we charge? It's, well, does it matter what I charge if I can't help you? Right? Or people ask, the number one question people ask is, do you take my insurance? Well, if I said no, they'll be like, peace, see you later. But what if we could, but does the answer to that question really matter if I can't help you? So what we try to do is figure out how can we talk to people and find out what's wrong and what they really want to have happen instead. And if we can show them how we can help them do that, then they'll be willing to pay us almost anything, to get there.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
My little short history, and then we're gonna, check the time for you, because I know, Aaron, you've got to go. But with PT I used to be, I don't know if you know this part of me. I started my law practice as a personal injury attorney. I really liked it. Attorneys get made fun of already, but personal injury attorneys really get made fun of. But
You're not going to charge me for this podcast, are you?
That's right. Well, personal injury attorneys, we charge contingency fee only on the settlement that we get paid. Right. But I liked it because I was helping people fight the big bad insurance companies. These would be people getting in real accidents. We didn't take scammers. They were really accident, and they'd really get hurt. And how they would get hurt would be soft tissue injuries, neck, shoulders, backs, things that don't show up on x-rays. And I remember in my own experience as well, going to your classic physical therapy, 20 years ago, and I didn't get better, and it didn't heal anything. And it wasn't through the lack of desire of the physical therapist. They really tried their hardest, but I didn't know at the time it's that they didn't have enough time. I just figured it didn't work. And I remember sharing with, a lot of my patients who wanted to get, not my patients, my clients who wanted to get better. I used to say, you want to feel better? Go to massage, go to acupuncture, go to chiropractic. I don't know why those work and PT doesn't, and you just explained it. Mm-hmm. But in my own, I got in a car accident, had a soft tissue injury, and it took Carrie, CJ Physical Therapy. It took her just about 3 visits to diagnose what was. I'd been living this for 20 years, and massage would always make it feel better for about 2 weeks, and it would come back. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I can heal that. And I was like, tons of people. Sure enough, she did. I can't remember the name of the technique. It was some sort of technique, and she's healed me.
Yeah.
And I've been like a proponent of that ever since. So
That's awesome.
so
Well, what'd she do different? I mean, was it
well,
because
number
she was,
one,
you know?
she just seemed to have the knowledge to know. She's like, first of all, it's not your shoulder, it's your neck. And the pain would show up in my shoulder blade. I'd get this knot. She's like, no, it's your neck. That's really your muscles. I might be butchering this, is connected to your neck. And so she
Yep.
gave what was this? It's the technique where I have to take my chin in my head and put it back because we spend so much time with it forward, which my massage therapist tells me all the time too. But and so it was this technique. It had a name. It has a name.
Well, I would call that a chin tuck. There might be other names for
No,
it.
it was some
Yeah.
she said some doctor figured out that if our necks are always in this position, if we counter push it the other way, then it'll go to neutral. Then it won't be pulling on that area. Is my lay people's way of understanding it. So I just did the exercise to counter flex it the other way, like she told me 3 times, and there was other exercises to it. Sure enough, gone.
Yep. And I mean, I hear that and go, she had time to sit with you, talk with you, and look at more than just your shoulder, which a lot of times in the regular model, it's like people are like, how many shoulders did you treat today? Because all they get an order and it says, treat the shoulder, do this. And they look at it and go, okay, great. Well, I don't have more than 15 minutes with you. So you're going to do this upper body ergometer, which is a bicycle for your arms. And you're going to do these other things. And you're going to hang out here and maybe I'll do a other thing, but like,
right. Right. I hope, I mean, as a patient, I hope the whole world switches to that and we don't have. And so physical therapists who are at those facilities can heal people the way they want to heal people. I mean, I even know just from seeing my physician, he's a good guy and he wants to treat and heal me. And he's got those metrics, you know, and
tough. I think the toughest thing is that people pay a lot for insurance and they feel like they're owed something and the insurance company isn't really the insurance company owes us a lot, but they're not going to give anything to us. We just have to get over that part and realize that health insurance is a lot like car insurance, where car insurance isn't going to pay for, new tires, alignment, oil change. Even if you get a window broken and it costs $500 to fix and you have $1,000 deductible, you still got to pay.
What I used to tell my personal injury clients, I used to say to them, look, insurance companies, automobile insurance companies are for-profit entities. Okay. How do they make money? Take in premiums and not pay it all out in claims. Right. That's why you're getting this crappy offer personal injury settlement, because their job is to limit the claims they pay out. Because they'd always be like, I don't understand. I have insurance. Why are they not agreeing that this extra course of PT isn't be paid? And I'm like, that's the game. Right. My job's to get them to knock it off, but that's essentially the game. That's why I liked my job, because I got to fight big, bad, evil insurance companies in exchange for my clients' poor injuries. Right. And then I still had to say to them, frustratingly, it'd be the end of the case and they'd be like, that's it. But I'm still in pain. And I'm like, listen, if law was Star Trek times, we'd put you through a machine and it would heal you. That would be the remedy under law. We don't have that remedy. It's money. It approximates it. It doesn't equal it. I'm so sorry you have the pain still. Like that used to stink.
Yeah.
So, but that was 20 years ago and we didn't have chiropractors used to be the people that would really heal. And those poor chiropractors, I'm going on a rant now on personal injury, but those poor chiropractors would get knocked to pieces in the automobile process, basically like, oh, they're not real doctors. And I used to be like, yeah, but they're healing people. Right. And they are real doctors. Anyway.
I know. And it's tough. Rant. Yeah, I know. And I think with chiropractors, one of the things they do is they do put their hands on everyone.
Yes.
And that's not like what we were taught in PT school when you're seeing a lot of people and it's like, put them on a bike, do the stem, eat, do what you can do to get them moving. And it helps. And it's not that it doesn't work. I mean, some people need to get moving and do some different things. But I think for me, what's important is creating a direct relationship with my customer and not having a triangular relationship. We know those are messy in personal relationships and they're not that great in business relationships either. And
that's right.
As a business owner, I want to have a direct relationship with my customer. And I think that's what's important. And it's not for everybody.
That's right. Let's say somebody wants to reach out to you. They want your kind of coaching. They want your type of help. How do they reach you?
The best thing right now is to go follow me on Instagram at Aaron LeBauer. I'm over there a lot more. I'm in the DMs there. If you're like, I don't even know what Instagram or social media is, go to aaronlebauer.com. And that's where you'll find more information, podcasts, blogs, other social media links, and events and stuff like that.
All right. Well, thanks again for appearing on the other podcast over on the D6 Generation feed. Thanks for appearing on the Rafe Granger podcast. And those of you listening, thanks for being here. And I look forward to recording the next episode for you. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Rafe Granger podcast. To help others find this podcast, please leave positive reviews on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. And if you want to hear more about our gaming podcast, please tune in to the D6 Generation, where we talk about board games, role-playing games, and occasionally video games. Thanks for listening. Happy gaming, happy connecting, and you can live your fantasy life.
Go,